Hey, good morning everyone, or good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you are and when you're tuning in. I want to make a quick video for you today, kind of a follow-up from my ping video, where I went over the ping command and some of the basic flags, and we talked through the return values of the commands and things along those lines. So I'll do the same here. Today we're going to cover the Ipconfig command. So let's jump right in. All right, so the command we're talking about today is Ipconfig. IP configuration is basically what that's short for. So if we run it at its very core, just Ipconfig, hit enter, you're going to get TCP IP information or information on all your TCP IP enabled or registered adapters. I have a whole bunch of adapters here because I do a bunch of stuff on here with VPNs and things like that, but we'll focus on the last adapter. This is my only active adapter right now, the Wi-Fi adapter. So when you run it at its most basic or core level Ipconfig, you're going to get the DNS suffix, and then you're going to get IPv4 address, subnet mask, and default gateway. All important things to know, obviously, if you're troubleshooting a network adapter. And I could probably make a whole separate video on subnet mask and the importance of that, but I think we'll just kind of go over the Ipconfig portion of this today. So that's what you get if you run it at its core. And then maybe you need a little more information. Maybe you're looking for the MAC address, the DNS server, things along those lines. Let's try the -all command. This is going to give us a little more information on each adapter. Again, focusing on the only active one I have today. It'll return that same information regarding the IP address, subnet mask, and default gateway, but it'll also return some additional information. You get a description. That's whatever you've configured as a description for your adapter. Physical address, guys. When you're looking for your MAC address, this is your MAC address. So physical address, that's my MAC. DHCP enabled, yes. That tells me this adapter is using DHCP. It's not statically configured. Lease obtained. So what does that mean? This is the time that the DHCP server handed out the address to my adapter. So it was this morning at 5:45 a.m. Lease expires. What does that mean? All DHCP servers are set up with a default lease duration time, in this case 24 hours. So this means my lease will expire in 24 hours. So basically, if I shut my computer off tonight, the DHCP server is going to, at 5:46 tomorrow in the morning, it's going to say, okay, this address is available. If anyone else needs an address, I'm free to hand this back out. Now, if my computer's still on the network, still talking, it'll check back in before this lease expires, and it'll say, hey, is it cool if I renew this lease? And the DHCP server will say, sure, here, go ahead and have it for another 24 hours or whatever your default lease duration time is set up for. So that normally will get the same address if you're online. If you log out and log back in, or I'm sorry, if you jump off the network, your lease expires, someone else may check that out. Next time you check in with DHCP, you'll probably get a new address. Default gateway, we saw that in the first command. DHCP server, this tells you who your DHCP server is. Same thing for DNS. This is all the same box here, home networks, everything's being fed from my router. And then lastly, NetBIOS over TCP/IP is enabled in my case. So that was the Ipconfig /all. Let's clear the screen, clean things up. Let's take a look at some DNS information. So if we do Ipconfig /display DNS, this is going to give us all the DNS resolver cached information. So what are the cached entries on your machine? And quite a bit, right? I mean, you open one or two web pages nowadays and there's links that feed out to 10 different places. So this is all the cached information, all the cached records, mostly A records, probably some C names in there. But you see there's quite a bit there. We could scroll for a while. If you're having issues and you suspect DNS is one of the issues, maybe you have a stale record, you're resolving to the wrong address, you can always try to do a Ipconfig Flush DNS. This will clear everything that's locally cached on your box. So now let's display DNS after we've flushed. And basically nothing there. A couple records, that's it. And those are just local records. Okay, and it looks like maybe a NTP record, I'm not sure, but yeah, it cleared pretty much everything out of the DNS cache. Let's take a look at something along the lines of DHCP. So let's take a look at that lease time again. For that, we'll do ipconfig/all. Here we see lease was obtained 5:45 this morning. It's going to expire at 5:46 and 40 seconds. We can go ahead and issue the renew command. This shouldn't change the lease obtained timestamp, but it should extend out the lease expires timestamp basically 24 hours from the time that we issue the command. It's 5:57 on my computer. So let's take a look at running this, renew. This will take a second. It's going to try for all the adapters. It's going to fail or say no operation can be performed for most of them because they're not active, they don't have a lease. But it will go ahead and renew that lease for my active adapter. Okay, there we go. So now let's run the all again so we can see the timestamps on the leases. And there we are. So like I said, the obtained didn't change because we didn't get a new lease. We basically just renewed the existing lease to be active for another 24 hours from the time of renewing, right? So it's basically almost like you can call an an extension of a lease. That's basically what that does. Now, on the opposite side, we can do a release, and this will get rid of our lease. So it'll tell the DHCP server, hey, I no longer need this address, take it back, you can have it, and then we'll take a look and we won't have an address. We'll probably end up with an IPA address or an automatic private IP address. So we'll do a release, and now we'll do a ipconfig/all. Yeah, we see on our adapter, we don't have any address, right? And if we just do ipconfig, we see that we have a automatic IP address. So that's what this is, auto configuration. If it can't resolve, or if it can't reach a DHCP server, or if you don't have it set up to get a DHCP address, or if you do a release, which is get rid of my DHCP, it's going to set it up for what they call a PIPA. This is a Microsoft feature where it gets a automatic private IP address. So if you had just a LAN here, no internet connectivity, this technically works to allow all your computers to talk to one another, but they're not going to be able to talk to anything outside of this PIPA subnet. And you see that's a /16, so anything that starts with 169.254 is basically in that same broadcast domain. That's why these have a different third octet, but technically they'd still be able to get to each other because those first two match, and that's all we're specifying in the subnet mask. Again, subnet mask, we could break a whole nother video into that, probably a series. Any of you guys who've studied for Cisco CCNA or anything like that with subnetting, you know exactly what I mean. Not to get off on a tangent there, guys, but okay, we did a release. So now that we've released, we can't really get to anything. We'd have to do a renew. So let's go ahead and do that. And this will get us a new lease. In a small network like mine at home, you're probably going to get that same address because it's the next available one in the pool, but you know, if something else has come online and grabbed that, then obviously you'll get the next one in line that the DHCP server hands out. So we get this a second, and yes, we did. We received the same address, and the lease timestamp should be updated. So let's take a look at that. Yes, so we just got it now at 5:59, and it will expire tomorrow at 5:59, 24 hours. All right, guys, that's some of the basics. I got one more for you. This is going to be a register DNS command. Note on this one, you will need to have command prompt running as an administrator or in elevated mode. So make sure you do that when you try to run the register DNS command. This basically reaches out to the DNS server and it says, hey, make sure you register my adapter's DNS record in DNS. Sometimes you'll see where you're not able to ping things by name on your network, and it could just be an issue with a stale DNS record that didn't get updated appropriately. So this is one of the ways to address that from the local workstation. And you can just basically tell your computer, hey, check back in with DNS and tell that guy that he needs to update my record. Maybe I've got a new IP and he's still got the old one or something like that, right? So you can always try this first before you reach out to one of your administrators who can go on the back end and delete or update stale records on the DNS server itself. All right, guys, so that was basically it. We covered ipconfig, what you get when you run it at its most core level. We looked at the -all command, which gives us some of that additional information. We took a look at renewing a lease, and that basically updates or extends that lease for whatever your lease duration is set for. In my case, another 24 hours from whenever we run the renew command. We took a look at the release command, which told the DHCP server, okay, I'm done with this IP, you can have it back. We followed that up with another renew, obviously, to get an IP address back. We took a look at the display DNS, which showed us all of our cached DNS entries on our computer. And then we looked at how to get rid of all those cached DNS entries. We did so by running the Flush Dns command. And lastly, we took a look at the register DNS. Again, pro tip on that one, make sure you're running command prompt as admin, or else it'll tell you womp womp womp. Okay guys, that was Ipconfig and some of the most basic and useful flags that you'll be running on a daily basis if you're in IT. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what other content you're interested in. I'd be glad to make a video to help you guys out. And until the next one, take care guys.